all intentions. And I immediately thought of that image of the supercomputer in Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey, HAL, when she said, when the computer tells the astronaut, no, you're not going to switch me off. I'm in control from now on. So, Alex, because you're a arguably Kenya's tech guru, let me start with you. Friend, foe, or we shouldn't be this binary?
I think you have hit the nail on the head. First of all, AI is a technology, and we have to avoid the narrow focusing on any particular AI, because that way we are going to end up with cognitive bias. Therefore, in our interpretation of what AI is, if we focus on one particular type of AI technology, we jump straight into bias. That bias is manifest in the question that it becomes binary, whether it's a friend or a foe. Throughout history of man and, of course, humanity, technology has been a revolutionary thing. It's just a question of who is controlling the technology, where is the center of technology, what purpose that technology is being put to, and is it in the interest of the broader development of society and humanity. Who has the power in this technology? How its distribution? Is technology in and of itself the inequality and injustice by itself? And you can pick from there on any technology, from fire, from the wheel, from the gun, from the panga, machete, and then you come all the way to AI and you realize it's neither a friend nor a foe, it just depends. And so the question is not binary. It has far more nuances, far more things we need to interrogate that go over the entire spectrum, from its governance, from its ethics, from its law, from its regulation, and even from its development. Is it open source? Is it proprietary? It is a locked system? Is it a black box? So at the end of the day, in short, I don't think quickly jumping to a friend or a foe is asking the right question. And they say if you ask the wrong question, you get the wrong answers. And so I think the question needs to be non-binary, depending on how you use it.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Naddya, one of the things I had the most fun reporting in my stint here in East Africa was on African superheroes and animation. Am I right to assume that AI could be probably a super tool for your trade? Or you fear that actually the craft could be lost in some way, be it on quality, joblessness, not just in spirit or it's the humanity of the art in itself. You were saying before to me, it could be a tool or a weapon, depending on how you use it.
Thanks for that question, Andrés. I think that, just as Alex raised, I think it's a delicate and daily negotiation. I've started working with teams who have started using Midjourney and other AI-fueled tools to create images. And I must confess, when the client first sent me a bunch of ideation made by Midjourney, I was terrified. I was terrified because it did it at a much greater speed, at a much greater volume, and I was in fear of being made irrelevant by the tool. On the other side, though, I take not just comfort and solace, but I actually have a lot of confidence in the fact that as a human being, the greatest asset I bring to my practice is not just the ability to make pretty pictures, it's the care I take into understanding context, into understanding audience, and those are things that require human presence and human engagement. So as of yet, I think the word super, I think it does have an amplifying power, I think, and it can be very good. But I think one thing which is still irreplaceable is that human capacity to engage on a no matter what the brief is and no matter what the audience is, I think one always has to be present and engage, and I don't think that has been automated yet.
Thank you, Nadia. And that you hit you said two very good words, context and audiences. Chidi, you tweeted something very interesting a couple of days ago, and I quote, "Why do we let algorithms dictate what art is popular? True creativity lies beyond the confines of likes and retweets. Let's champion art that challenges and transcends." And I'm quoting you here because the development and governance, which is what you're saying, Alex, of AI remain heavily, if not almost entirely concentrated within rich countries. I mean, the US dictates the terms, runs the show. Do you think AI, while useful, could just provide a, say, very narrow or even often compromised view of the world? And is there something to be done?
Yeah, I think that could definitely happen, just because within the world that we live in, there's already these biases that are inbuilt in the world now. So, in fact, with AI, it's almost our responsibility now to counteract those biases, be able to create our own data sets, and our responsibility as artists as well is not maybe to like fear the AI, and also when I talk about the AI in the sense of maybe talking more about the mid-journey type of recreations that replicate the aesthetics of what a human would do. So it's our responsibility to start creating those data sets and improving them to not be so like biased. Like I've seen many things where you would type in, for example, I don't know, you would put in the words African art or something, and the most stereotypical things would come out because it's using a very stereotypical data set which already pre-exists within the world. So it's like, how do we then now use what we know to be true, our perspectives, to then feed that into the data that we have, to actually have a algorithm or like an AI that can reproduce something that's more true to home.
Thank you. I think, for example, the newspaper I work for, we have very strict rules about the use of AI. I mean, we will not allow journalists like myself to compromise the integrity of the reporting. We have to do it ourselves. We can use it as an assistant tool to help us lead us somewhere. And I mean, I come from the generation that started into journalism when Google started. And then it was like, okay, wow, how do we use this? And then, okay, journalists didn't die. I mean, for you, Alex, because there were those fears back in the day, do you fear about, as many others do, about just job losses and also the mass spread of this information? I mean, a friend of mine who's moderating a panel just now was telling me the other day that he was a victim recently of, with some of his bits of voice, some AI, his bits of voice that were already in the public domain, some AI-generated discourse by him, that it was not by him, was spread through social media.
Yeah, because I'm not exactly Gen Z, I relate with what you are saying. Nate, there was an article that was written by Nicholas Carr, and the title was, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" And on that article, what the author of that article was saying in the Atlantic, online is still available, from memory, just like these phones have made us not remember even our spouses or we are no longer, because almost cyborg now, almost get, it's Taylor Swift, we saw that one, and I raised it among politicians. I told them, you know what's going to happen next? This was early this year. Next time they are going to take some of those videos and they'll say things you haven't said, and you'll be amazed at the things that will happen. They are seeing them already. I'm happy they are seeing it. They understand the importance of how serious this can be. At least happening on real cases. Unfortunately, even taking a few seconds of what we have just spoken here, somebody can train the AI, and then everything else it reads as texts. Now it makes sure that your body language, and you can be seen on porn sites. Let's face it. Let's face the reality here. So the problem that is happening, which is now further to that article of 2008, is AI, like my colleague is saying here, making us lose attachment to creative works and literary works, because we had attachment to what we could read. Now comes in AI, produces so many images, so many graphics, mid-journey and all these, that what I used to admire, what the creativity that used to go into a painting, that I would sit down and think what the artist was doing. Maybe we are losing it also now in this age of AI. So I think, yes, the problem is going to get even more compounded. It's going to get worse before it gets better. In my view, we don't fear, we jump in, because they say that if you're not at the table, you'll be on the table. So what we need is our creatives to embrace it, to engage with it, to interrogate with it, and ensure our representation in the ecosystem is there right from the onset. Biggest problem right now is the distribution, because the big countries and among the big 7 in US and China, they control 80% of the AI. The compute, NVIDIA, we can't afford those processors. And then we also don't have ability to amass all that data these companies have. So we are already imbalanced. Are we subscribing to these services online? So our little money here, again, is something to make us even poorer economically. Or is AI going to make us economically better? This has nothing to do with the economics of AI. So they are deeply rooted issues that I would ask Gen Z and other stakeholders in a multi-stakeholder approach, where we look at the various diverse issues, sit down and see what at the end of the day benefits us as a country, as a continent, as a people, and a society, and advances humanity and society at large more than it hinders. But we have to be in the game.
Well, that we have to be in the game. You said it, Nadia. You said still irreplaceability of the human mind. But you word, I think you chose it carefully, the word still. Because probably we don't know where this is going to lead us. So there will be a point when that still will be dropped and could be replaceable? That could happen? And you think, how can affect, for example, you were saying how it can affect the arts, how it can affect literature, how it can affect your art.
Thanks for that. I just want you to clarify, the word was skill.
No, still. You said still irreplaceability of the human mind.
Okay.
That you need it, that you still need the human mind behind it
okay.
to run the AI.
Yeah. I think the horrifying truth is that maybe it will. I think human beings, we're always marching towards the singularity, like, in spite of ourselves. So there might be a point where it does come. I think that irreplaceable component, which I hope will still be there, is that unpredictable demand of being present and engaging with other unpredictable and demanding persons. Like, I feel like that is still something that has not been automated yet. And it is my dearest hope that it remains immutable, because it's the asset that I continue to bring to the table. So I hope to still be sitting at it and not be dined upon it.
Thank you, Nadia. Chidi, you spoke about bias, and something key you said, actually, Alex, as well, affordability of this AI. Let me go back to what we were discussing earlier with you. Some people have argued that the current landscape of AI development resembles a sort of like neo-colonial form of resource extraction. For example, Africa finding itself a sort of like relegated role of data mine, that then fueling AI models somewhere else, but the economic benefits really being dripping down to Africans. And that could apply also to the arts, to the literature. Is there a way that you can actually, now that you're aware of it, as you've been aware of many other things in the past, that you can actually take control of them?
I think we have to. we have to take control of it. You know, we don't. It's not really by choice. It's a necessity now to take control of it. And I think there's a lot more opportunities, especially on the continent, to like take control, and not just in the arts, but in so many different places now. And there's a lot of talk when we think of AI. It's a lot of these like doomsday kind of talks of like it's gonna take over and everything. And I think that if we steer away from that kind of narrative and into like the opportunities that this could bring, yes, For example, if you work more in like the aesthetics of like the work or painters, we've seen now like Mid-Journey can actually paint a portrait better than like most painters can do, right? But I think this begs us to question about what is it that the actual painting is, or what the actual art is. There's a reason why if you go to the Louvre and people are, you see people queuing around to look at the Mona Lisa, there's a reason. I can get AI to create a Mona Lisa like right now that will even look better than the real Mona Lisa. But what's the reason that people go to that Mona Lisa? I feel that every piece of artwork has an aura. There's an aura to that work that it presents, and you're going to see or view that for the aura. And also about like art is not just, firstly we have the aesthetic of the art, which kind of brings you in, but then there's also the conversation that the artist is having with that artwork. That's something that's very human, that AI cannot recreate and cannot rebuild. And there's a lot of opportunity for us to co-create with AI and actually create new ways of producing. So maybe as maybe we've seen with technology that's come in the past with with photography has come in, maybe that will replace like painters or portrait painters of the past. Well, the AI has now come in, which maybe might replace like painters of today or digital artists of today. But then what's the new form that's going to be created now? Is there going to be a new form of art and designing that we don't even know exists, which is like a co-creation of AI and humans together to create something completely new that we couldn't even fathom?
But this is also tied to, in a way, to your work in reclamation. This idea of trying to take control of the data that, let's say, in this case, the African data that the AI can actually use. Can it, in a way, your work of reclamation can actually help with that sort of like reclamation also of the data that goes into AI that is going to fuel
all of the colonial bullshit that's happened into the next generation of this new phase? What that exactly is, I don't know, but it's also very exciting not to know. You just got to have more of a positive mind frame about what could come next.
Thank you. Alex, you had a very interesting example because you wrote a book in record time using AI.
Absolutely. Picking on what he has said is that I have a recorder here because we have to see how we can use this technology to advance what it is we want to do. So my goal was to do a book in 7 days from last week, save for the fact that there was disturbances in the country, so which were affecting literally all aspects of us. And what to do with it is record yourself. The ordinary things journalists use, the voice recorder. You can even use your phone. And then you install on your computer open source Whisper AI. It's available for anybody to download and use it. Transcribes the whole thing for you into text. So you are left now doing some bit of edit, then get an original photo of your own, wherever you are, to make it your style, and then you get AI to create something in your style, so that then you're not exactly getting what AI has done on its own based on appropriated creativity, so that you move away from this AI, whatever is doing is stuff made out there. You can do the opposite. When you do this, you're recording yourself. You are having transcription on your local computer. It's open source software. Your stuff is not going to the cloud. And then you, once it's transcribed, get photos of your own which are original. Then that way, you are the creator. You are engaging with this AI without navigating through all those creativity appropriation and intellectual property challenges. You are not violating any law now. You are ethical in the sense that you are not using other people's stuff, and you are getting your work done. So in a week, you could get a book out there, meaning in a year you can get 52 books. However, this brings in another problem, which he has also spoken about, Mona Lisa. What is the attachment that a human being has with a work of art, creative works, whether it's a painting, whether it's a book, whether it's a video, there is a human connection, which also ties into what she's saying, that the human must be the overall. I'm opposed to any and every AI that makes autonomous decision. I want an AI that the human being has an oversight. Fortunately, our Data Protection Act in Kenya has that provision that no decisions can be made solely on the basis of automated system. Nice legally worded, but it takes care of that. So we can't have in Kenya some AI system determining you are a terrorist or you are killed by drones because some AI system, it will be illegal because then the AI is not going to decide your fate in this country. But again, lawmakers are always a decade behind. As we are trying to move ahead on AI, our Kenya got its Data Protection Act in 2019 after we started agitating for it in 2009, 10 years later. By that time, it was the height of the business process outsourcing. The country lost all opportunities because we didn't have data protection laws. We are now in the age of AI. I think they will be so busy right now dealing with the other issues. They will not think about the legal provisions for artificial intelligence. So it will be gone. 10 years from now, I hope we don't come back here and saying, oh, you know, we were here, and we are hoping the laws will do it. But it's likely in the way things have been in the past. So that's my reaction.
But isn't that usually the case, that technology moves way forward than regulation anywhere in the world, and then regulators are trying to catch up, as the EU is trying to do now,
yes,
with AI, and it's actually too clumsy or too slow or too...
That was true before AI came. Law always came to correct mischief of what has happened, but this time around, at least its governance, its rules, supersede the law. And best example is the center of gravity of AI, which is US and China. Right from White House, they have, last year in June, Congress, they even had policy they want to be leaders on AI. Chinese are doing on the other side. I don't know where Europeans are, but if you put US, China, and Europe, maybe there's only about 9% of AI left for the rest of the world. So what's our future? So even Europeans are threatened by this, and which makes them our allies. So I think we need to get closer as Africans with Europeans, because then they are more of our friends. We're
going to get editors and writers just jobless in no time.
My own work during COVID, what I call COVID season 1, 2020, I was really trying to do work for a lot of North American entertainment companies. Help us to evolve more responsibly.
Similar debate, if I remember correctly, about 20 years ago with CGI, when that first, but not first, but fourth Star Wars movie came out, that half of the movie was CGI, and people were saying, you used the word soullessness. People thought, but this is soulless. Is this a sort of like, you said, how do you call it, COVID part 1? Season 1? Yeah. Isn't this sort of like CGI, but AI season 1, CGI season 2 or something?
I definitely agree with you there. It starts janky. Like, I think one of the most common examples was the Will Smith eating spaghetti video. Has anybody seen this? When Sora was trying to say, we've come so far in a year, there was this really, really janky video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. It was horrifying to watch, and now you honestly can't tell the difference. But it took that. Like, by the time we have a property like Toy Story, it took Tin Toy. It took people taking those risks in the 80s for us to get to this point. If you look at some of those early human animation in CG, it's terrifying. Like, I think there was one that was done of a human, of like a baby, like a doll. And it was such a horrifying thing. But I think the fact that they were continuing to take those risks is what has allowed it to become this elegant thing. And we rise to meet it, and we still cry. I think that's the loop that I'm hoping that we can make with this conversation. As much as it's all about automation and speed and beyond human capacity, ultimately human capacity is what grounds it and gives it its value in the first place. Yeah.
Thank you, Naddya. I mean, if before starting this conversation, my main fear was the HAL computer from Kubrick taking over the world, I have a more immediate fear, which is soullessness. are we facing a more immediate future soullessness in literature, in arts, in animation, or is there any way of actually, as you said, still keeping the human mind there in order to funnel it, to actually keep it so? Chidi, what do you think?
In regards
it's related to your tweet from the other day about the algorithm.
Yeah, I think in regards to soullessness, I think we're already there. So I don't know if this like we're already, I think we're already there in regards to soullessness. And the reason I would say that is because technology has already kind of played its part in removing some of that soul from the process in the arts as well. So and sometimes I just think of like the why. Right? Why? Like we're making all these things with like AI, but it's like why? Who asked you to do this? Like who? You know, for example, with Midjourney and to creating pictures and stuff. We have artists already that can create amazing work, amazing pictures. We have animators that can create amazing anime. Who was the one who asked you to do that? I studied human-centered design. And it's all around you taking the problems or trying to find the problems through conversating with the user, and you have that conversation, you find out what the actual problems are. We have a lot of problems, especially on the continent. There's a lot of problems that actually AI could help, AI could help with. But I think drawing like pictures in Midjourney is not a problem. You know, I saw this funny tweet that someone had. It was an artist, and they were like, yeah, I'm an artist, but I don't need AI to do the art for me. Actually, I would like AI to help me make my bed in the morning and, clean up my house and do those tasks that would be very helpful. I don't find how it's helpful in, being able to recreate stuff that a human can actually do. And with that human element, you do have that soul that's inputted in there as well.
But Alex, doesn't creativity feed into each other's creativity? It's like there's no like creativity. That's why you have conversations, because that's how you spur ideas. Couldn't you have that conversation with AI, and then if you say the silver lining is, the upside is AI can really help us. Chidi spoke about the problems in Africa and everywhere else, but where can AI, if you have to say, okay, I wrote a book in 7 days, it helped me doing that, but what can it help me do to actually solve problems?
Yeah, I think what Chidi is saying is that we are looking at relevance of technology. It has to be relevant. It just doesn't have to be quantity. It's not just mass production of technology. It has to be, and if it's relevant, then it's solving a need. Why should we have AI doing all those wonderful things all the AIs of this world are doing, but none of them can solve the problem of malaria in Africa? Neglected diseases, another global pandemic like HIV, but they could get others so quickly. So is this relevant AI in the first place? So it's not a fault of AI per se, but it's a question of two things that, to me, overlap. One of them is creativity. What does creativity in all the creative industries tend to do? We tend to go out there and invoke human emotion, so that then we create then that bond between the creative works and the audience or viewer, whoever it is that the material is being made for. It's meant to cause change. So even if it's a viral video calling for demonstrations, it has evoked a feeling on an issue and people have taken action. And these things are going towards improving society so that we have a better society than we had before. Now, back to this question. Then what is technology also? It's also creativity. It's actually the application of science, which is also somebody who sat down and thought of something and thought he could solve the problem of electricity by, Tesla. And he has improved life because he sat down. And then because of that now, we now have a situation where technology, just like again in other digital technology, they invented the the internet, Vinstaff and others, and all these ones who came with the transistor, then you have technology on one side, you have creativity, and these two are conjoined. There is no way you can separate them. So we are witnessing a place where technology and the creative works are getting even closer and closer as they have already been conjoined, and we are coming up with a new reality. Incidentally, reality is not fixed. So even on the question of the soul, we are going to have new souls. Yeah, because now there's a new reality. Like now, people are saying there's no tribalism. There's tribalism. But now the tribes have gone online. Gen Z is another tribe. You know, millennials another tribe. They have been having these tribes on all various social media platforms. So we are going to have new definition of reality. And for those of us that discuss culture in various contexts, and I'm involved with a person who is doing a thesis on the impact of AI on culture and traditional knowledge, we acknowledge that culture is not tradition. It's not the way Maasais used to jump in a shuka. It's an evolutionary way of how people relate, which is dynamic, as was said even in previous panels. The way we are relating with everybody here is not the way probably could have, not probably, it's not the way we would have related 10, 20 years ago. And it's not the way we relate tomorrow. So we'll have new ways of relating, even within us, within the country, within our families, within our continent, and in the world, because it's evolutionary. So we have to embrace the technologies, and what along the way doesn't please us, doesn't help us, we discard, and what's good, we embrace. But we need speed, and back to your earlier point, we can't wait like other laws. This one, we move fast with our policy makers. So it's a challenge for them. But most importantly, and it's a question I even put to the President William Ruto before he was elected, is that I have always had a very soft spot and concern for the internet. And the internet taxation, I listed 6 taxes when he had a town hall, when he was not elected, before the previous election, that come and tax the internet. There was mobile phone tax, there's data bundles tax, there is airtime tax, there was M-Pesa tax, money transfer, the 6 taxes. And so I put a question, it's still online on KTN Town Hall, asking about that be removed. Unfortunately, the bill was adding more, and thank you.
Well, go to Uganda, how many taxes the internet has, but new definition of reality. And one of the subtexts of the conversation, what I think you said it, what our future would look like with AI. Before I open the floor to 1 or 2 questions, I'm going to ask ChatGPT here what our future looks like with AI. The future with AI holds a mix of opportunities and challenges across various sectors. Thank you for that, very illuminating. Speaking of soullessness, anyway, I'm gonna thank you very much, everyone. I'm gonna open the floor to 1 or 2 questions. Any takers? Right there on the first row, the microphone.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Dennis. I am a creative nonfiction writer, and this is a really interesting conversation about AI. And I have a friend who's a writer too, but unfortunately, he quit writing. He saw like, why should I write while AI can write better than me? And the question is, AI is here to stay, and there's that thing that we say, if you can't beat them, join them. And how can I help my friend to use AI as a friend instead of opposing it?
I have a response for Dennis. Hi, Dennis. I guess the first is a question back. When you say better, what are your metrics for better? Is it faster? Is it quality? Is it authenticity of your voice? Because I truly believe that there are some parts of your perspective that cannot be replicated, and so it can never be better at writing like Dennis than Dennis. I still hold on to that. In terms of joining or beating it, I think it can definitely be a friend. One of my colleagues and mentors in the AI space, Kajatan Boy, said that it doesn't replace you, it can make you a prolific writer. So instead of saying, I will never write another book again, you can write 52 in a year. Like, I think it serves to amplify your voice and not erase it.
Thank you, Nadia. One more. We have time for one more. Right there.
Hi, Alex. I've heard you encouraging legislators to pass laws to regulate AI. My opinion has been, at least in the Kenyan context, whenever regulation comes along, it's along licensing and limiting, so it makes it harder for people who are just starting out to establish themselves. So I'm not sure what your take is in that context, because to me, at least, I feel innovators thrive more in a field which is more open. So what is your take on that? Do you think that regulation can actually foster innovation?
Yes, quick response to that is, number one, I was responding to a proposal that had been put to Parliament on regulating AI by other parties, which came in as a petition to the Parliament. You know, these days, a citizen can initiate legislation, unlike before, under the new constitution. So some people calling themselves Robotic Society took a private bill to Parliament. So we were there on February 12th opposing that bill, the one called
Robotic Society.
Artificial Intelligence Robotic Society, they were calling themselves. And they were coming in to create a society to say they are private people who will be regulating the artificial intelligence robotics. So we were actually out there to fight that that bill is not put there. And also saying the way a proper bill needs to be put in. And secondly, the reason why, again, it's important for a legal framework to be put in place is so that when there are illegalities done, like appropriation of creativity, violation of data protection, private data, data being harnessed and used elsewhere, then we need legal safeguards. So the question is how to involve everyone in this conversation so that it's not hijacked by anybody else. So we can never live without law. It's a question of not having unjust laws. That's my reaction.
Thank you. There was one more question down here.
Yes, I think we're all very fascinated by your book in 7 Days Experience. And you said that, like you said, the parameters, so that AI was still, like it was still your creation because you made the technology right in your style. Why, like how big do you think the danger of the opposite happening, that the AI can affect the way you write, the vocabulary that you are using? Like how sure you are that it's always you that is in control and not the other way around?
Very nice. And this is one of the key safeguards that I recommended that AI. And that is, I am the one that spoke onto this Sony recorder. So it's my words that I spoke to that were being transcribed. It did not do any editing. It never did added word. In fact, I was going into correct because my accent, some of the words I use were not available in the training data, so it would make mistakes, not exactly what I meant. So I had to go through it and actually say, that's not what I meant. The word you got doesn't exist. It is the word I meant. So I don't want it to be AI-produced book. It is AI that's helping me. When I get those moments of inspiration, I record them and it just transcribes them for me, but I don't tell it to edit. Human control at the top of it. So I prefer systems that are not autonomous. They are not making decisions on themselves. And that's my safeguard. The second safeguard, and very important, is I also make sure it's local. It's running local on my computer. I don't want crowd service out there just running it. And then what they are doing is, as I think I'm doing my work, because the laws are not sufficiently protecting my work, they're in the background just taking my data to train their models to be more expensive and sell it as a service to be even more expensively, which perpetuate the global inequalities of economics, because they're still getting more money out of me, more data out of me. They're data mining. So I also want it local.
So you're saying you kept your book soulful overall.
It is my reflection.
Thank you. In the spirit of soulfulness, thank you very much, Naddya, Alex, and Chidi, this was great. Asante sana, everyone. And please stay on for the next sessions.